And welcome back to Journey with the Jays. I'm Jake. We have John, JB, and this week we have a special guest, Christine Lisi. Welcome. Really appreciate you being on the show.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
All right, guys, let's start with hockey this week. NHL news, not a whole lot, just a little bit. I believe the last time we were on the show, we were still waiting on some Game 7s. So as of last week, the Stars and Avalanche 9-4. So about a week ago, Stars Avalanche 5-4 overtime. Very good game. I know we thought that was going to be a pretty good series. It turned out to be a very good series. I felt like whoever was coming out of that series, and hopefully you guys will agree, I think that's a serious cup contender, not just because of the round they were in, just the level they were playing at. I know we talked about that a little bit. They both looked fantastic. And I got to tell you, I felt bad that a team had to lose. I actually felt bad someone had to lose because they're playing so incredible. The Avalanche clawed their way back into that series. They really earned that Game 7. And the Stars just held them off, just not by a lot, just pulled that one out. So Stars definitely earned it, but it was not easy. And then later that night, Golden Knights, Canucks. Golden Knights ended up winning 3-0. It was a huge win. They needed that. I know I said at the beginning of the playoffs, they were my team to watch. I felt like they're a team that could really go all the way. So for me, that was really that was an important game to watch. Very good game. Just outplayed the Canucks. The Canucks are a great team. I know we said it earlier when we talked about when they were playing the Blues. They're just young. That's all that is for now. They got to learn the ropes, but they played great, and I my hat off to them for holding their own so well. And then Islanders just crushed the Flyers 4-0. John, it looks like you ended up being right. Flyers finally choked. It took them till Game 7, but they did choke.
What did your friend end up saying after he had his little comment about me being wrong about the Flyers?
For everybody that doesn't know what's happening, a friend of mine off screen sent me a message after watching our last show and said, tell John to keep doubting my Flyers because clearly every time he doubts them and says they're going to choke, they win. When I said something, he had nothing to say.
Hey, look, I said it's a Flyers thing to do, to choke away in the playoffs, and ultimately it's what they ended up doing. They came back, made it a 3-3 series, got to Game 7, but the Islanders were too much for them, and the Flyers always do this, aside from Stanley Cup years and years ago that they ended up losing. They always find a way to choke in the playoffs, much like the Sixers. It just seems to be maybe a Philly thing to kind of choke in the playoffs, unfortunately, but the Flyers just could not handle the Islanders, and now the Islanders are in a dogfight of a series, which I believe is going to go 7 games. It's going to be a fantastic series.
I don't know if I'd call it a dogfight quite yet. After Game 1, 8-2 Lightning victory, I don't know if I call that a dogfight. That sounds like a straight up beatdown.
A loss is a loss. It didn't matter 3-2, 102. They lost. They'll come back. They're playing well tonight. They're up 1-0.
I'm 1-0. They look much better tonight. So,
The one thing about the Flyers is I think that they finally, it seems like for much of my lifetime, they've been looking for a goaltender. And I think they finally found it in Carter. So I think that's, that I have I'm not a Flyers fan, but I have a lot of friends who are Flyers fans that I work with. And I know that they're really excited about Carter. And I think that they're obviously tough. They've always been a tough team, but they finally have their goaltender that they're looking for. And I don't usually watch the West too much. We get the center ice package. So I'm a Sabres fan. My husband's a Rangers fan. So we watch a lot of Eastern Conference games. But I was watching that game last night with Vegas and Dallas. I'm like, wow, just the skill and the Vegas seems huge, right? Their whole every guy on that team seems like they're Ryan Reeves size, right? There's no small forwards or anything. It just seems like they're all really big, but it was just, I don't like why we have hockey this time of year, but I love being able to watch, hockey and basketball. It's usually a pretty slow time before football starts, but it's been a lot. It's been neat to watch all the, hockey and basketball during the day and throughout the summer. That's one thing I've really enjoyed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm right there with you. You know what? I always feel like, I do watch baseball and I do love baseball, but the Yankees are playing like junk. And I'm sure John will have something to say about that in a little bit. I know for a fact John will take any opportunity to crush our Yankees, JB.
We're in trouble when that happens. But going back to hockey, what about Vegas? How have they done such a great job being an expansion team and being relevant and getting to the Cup and now back to the conference finals? I mean, that's amazing.
I think my husband and I have talked about this. Like, it's not like when we were young, like expansion teams were not good. Like when the Devils first came on the scene, and I even want to say like the Lightning, like some of those teams, like they weren't good. But like I think the talent pool now is so, I guess I want to call it so great that the Vegas organization, they had people in place who knew what they were doing to build a really good team. And maybe that first year they did catch lightning in a bottle, but like, Marc-Andre Fleury is a really good goalie. And I think that it was amazing to see them be so good so quickly. And I think they just had the right people in place and everything just kind of worked for them that season. And I mean, they're just very, very good. I think they had the vision of like what they wanted their team to be, and they picked the right pieces, and it works. Like stuff like that doesn't work for everybody, because I mean, otherwise everybody would win, but be very good. But I think just for them, they just had a plan and it just worked. I'm interested to see what happens with Seattle when they get, when they form their team. But
I think part of it is they just came in at a good time. I think the pool of talent, like you just mentioned, was really there. Marc-Andre Fleury, they came in at the right time to get him because that was right when the Penguins were switching goalies from Fleury to Murray. It was the perfect transition time, and he was and Fleury is still in his year. I wouldn't say his prime, but he's definitely still playing very well. They got him right at the right time. I think the other thing is they've had really great coaching. I don't feel like sometimes I think people kind of overlook that. But they had Gerard Gallant, and now they have Peter DeBoer. They have two great coaches. I mean, they're both fantastic coaches. And again, it just happened to be they came in at the right time to get the right players. This past few seasons, William Karlsson, I got to tell you the truth. Wow, might be. Well, we'll talk about that comment in a minute.
Funny,
but William Karlsson, they happen to have pulled a guy like him that has just developed into a star. It's just kind of happened like that. But they've made some smart trades. I believe it was this past offseason. They traded for Max Pacioretty. So that was another smart trade. They made smart trades. They had the right players at the right times. It just everything has fallen into place, like you said. And I like to give a lot of the credit to the coaching, though. Without the right coaching, I think this team would have been good, but not as great as they've been. And they've been able to transition from Gallant now to DeBoer and had almost no time off. They didn't miss a step. It really felt like they just went one to the next. One guy wasn't coaching well. They went right to the next and they just picked it up. And I just think this team rallies around each other. I got the sense when I first watched them, they understood they were an expansion team. They knew they were young. And I think they understood the track record of most expansion teams, which is they usually suck for a few years and then they start to become more relevant. They maybe get some players in free agency, or maybe they draft someone. I think they understood that is usually what happens. And like you said, they had the mindset, let's go out there and let's go and shock the world. And I think after that first season, that's been enough for them. That's kind of been the fire that keeps fueling them every season now. After that first season, I think it's just been, let's continue to repeat this magic. Let's continue to shock the world.
Right. And Leonard's been something too, right? Like, I know he didn't play well they lost game one, but like his shutout streak and how well he's been doing, like that's amazing. Or Fleury was in for game one. Like, that's just incredible to me how he's been able to just come along and be the number one guy.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that puts pressure on Seattle when they come in that Vegas did so well? Or do you think they're an expansion team, it doesn't really matter?
I think there is an amount of pressure to an extent, but there always is. I feel like for every expansion team, there's always a certain amount of pressure to try and come out and be the best, because you are being given a really great opportunity to get some of the best players in the league, or even even if it's, a team's second line, maybe even their third line, which are still good players, you're being given an opportunity to get some top guys, some developing guys. You're given that opportunity. So I feel like there is some pressure. But at the same time, I feel like for all expansion teams, there's pressure always to do well because the front office wants you to do well and the fans want you to do well. But just because the Golden Knights are doing well, I personally don't think there's a lot of pressure on them, honestly, because you know what? They're an expansion team. If they do great, they shock everybody. But if they suck, everybody says, well, they're an expansion team. What do you expect? These guys have never played together. They're trying to learn. And some of these guys may just not be developed enough. They may be too young. They may not be ready to lead a team necessarily. So I think a lot of expansion teams generally get a pass. I don't think that just because one team has done amazing, it means, everybody has to do amazing now.
I'm glad the league's in Seattle. I think that's a great market. I think that's a great sports market. And I think it's wonderful that the NHL has a team out there. I think it's great.
No, definitely. I mean, that's a market that needs a team, and, they support their team. So it's a good move.
Thank you to whoever this user is for telling us the Lightning scored. Yes, they tied it up 1-1. So now 1-1. John, I got to ask you, I don't know if you've watched any of the games, but what are you thinking about the Lightning right now? Because for me, I'm starting to think they're looking even better, and they did exactly what I was thinking they would do, continue to get better with each series.
Yeah, the Lightning are the team that they should have been last year. They ended up getting swept out of the first round last year. That shouldn't have happened, but it did. So I think they're out for vengeance this year, even with all the injuries that they've had. This is the team that we expected them to be. And I think it's going to be a tough series. I do. I think the Islanders are going to put up a fight, but ultimately I think the Lightning, end up winning this series. And I think they'll end up probably winning the Stanley Cup just based on the talent alone, because they are so talented and their talent is so much above all the other remaining teams, just in terms of talent. They're just so far above everybody else. And this is their Stanley Cup. I mean, they, like I said, getting swept last year, they're just out for vengeance, and they're going to end up winning this thing. It's bound to happen.
And Vasilevsky's been all right, Vasilevsky's been all right.
Pretty funny you say that. Someone just told. I mean, yeah. No, it's funny because I know last week I said to John, I said, there is no doubt that this team could win the cup. I've said that over and over again. It was a matter of, will they continue to play better? Are they going to play at the level that they should be playing at, that we know they can play at with the talent they have? And if they continue to play the way they're playing right now, which is starting to be the Lightning that we all know and expect to see, they're playing at that high level, they very well could win the cup if they keep that up. And it looks like they are. I said at the beginning of the playoffs in their first round that they looked kind of sluggish. I said last round they started to look a little bit better. They didn't look their best, but they looked better. Now they're starting to look like the Lightning we all know. And if they continue to play the way they're playing, and just like this comment says, Vasilevsky's obviously playing fantastic, anything could happen. I wouldn't be surprised with the way they're playing that they win the cup. I think they are the hottest team in all of hockey with just the way these two games have gone. Just the way they've played in these two games, they look the hottest they've been, and they look the hottest team in all of hockey right now. And I'm now officially scared of the Lightning. I wasn't in the last two rounds, but this round, I'm now scared of the Lightning again.
And as you know, these I'll go on, JB.
No, I was going to say, as an Islander fan, getting to the conference finals, if you lose to the Lightning, you have nothing to be sorry about. I mean, this is a very great season. Yeah, I mean, I want to win it all. I mean, but you can't always do that, and you're playing a great team. If the Lightning play their best, you're not beating them. You don't have the talent to match up with the Lightning. Now, you can make it a good series, and you can beat them, but if the Lightning are on their game, it's not happening. Yeah,
right.
Islanders' first time in 27 years, I believe, to make it this far. So, nonetheless, it is an accomplishment. And this team, I've said it many times, I'll continue to say, the Islanders are going to continue to be better. They're a good team to watch in the next few years. I said Barry Trotz, great coach to have. So, look, you got to pick your time. this may not be the Islanders' year, maybe the next 2 or 3 years as the Lightning get older and the Islanders continue to get more experienced and get into those players' primes. I think in the next few years it might be their year. But John did say, and I have to agree, right now is the window is starting to close for the Lightning. This has got to be their year.
And it's amazing they haven't had Stamkos.
I know.
Like a generational talent.
Absolutely.
I feel bad for that guy because he's he got hurt one year and he couldn't be in the Olympics. And then, and just for some of the injuries that he's had, I feel, kind of bad for somebody like that because your career is so short, right? Uh-huh. And you don't get that many chances. And, you never know how many times you're going to get to go to a championship series or a Super Bowl or anything like that for anybody. So that's what's amazing to me is that they have been so good and he has not played. They just, I don't know if they make the cup final, if he's back for that, or I'm not sure because they never really.
They're sure yet. I think they're kind of taking it series by series with him right now. It's kind of what it seems to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I want to just bring up this comment because I love this comment. I couldn't agree more with what they said. Hot streaks. We've talked about this in multiple episodes now. That's how this works. They mentioned the Blues last year. I couldn't agree more. That's just what hockey's all about. I said it, I believe 2 weeks ago now. I said it's all about catching lightning in a bottle. And I hate to say it again. I did it a couple weeks ago, and I hate to make almost a joke, but the Lightning are doing exactly that, catching lightning in a bottle right now. They look fantastic. And I just said that this very well could be the year. And I agree with this comment. This very well could be the Lightning's year.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess, do you want to switch over to basketball now?
If JB, you got something for us, let's see what you got.
So first, we'll start giving John props right away. We'll talk
Miami
first. Because they just looked impressive. So John, tell me why did the Heat just dominate the second round as easily as they did? Be the Heat fan that you are.
They match up really well with the Bucks. The Bucks do not match up well with the Heat. The Heat obviously have a lot of 3-point shooting. They have the advantage, I believe, as I said last week, at coaching. With Eric Spoelstra, you guys don't necessarily believe in him, but that was a guy that was able to handle the ego of Chris Bosh, LeBron James, and Dwayne Wade all for 4 years. That's a lot to handle for a guy that just started coaching back then, at least being a head coach. And he's really done a good job with the Heat over the years, even without those guys. And so he put together a good roster full of 3-point shooters, a team that moves the ball well and suffocates you on defense. And the Bucks just were not able to overcome that. Even with Giannis in the lineup, it was 3-0 in the series. And then somehow ended up winning a game without him. But the Heat just suffocate you defensively and they wear you down. And then they just come back. Even when you're beating them, they come back and hit 3 after 3. And they just fight and claw. And it just wears you down after a while. And that's hard. It's hard to beat a team that just suffocates you and wears you down.
So who do you want?
Butler too, right? The addition of Jimmy Butler, that guy.
Pickup, yeah. So who do you want, the Celtics or the Raptors next round?
I think the Heat will have their hands full either way. Both teams are really good. Both teams are well coached. So neither team is going to be easy, I wouldn't say. I just hope personally that it goes 7 games so that way they wear each other out and then the Heat are just fresh and get more time to rest up. But either way, it's going to be a real tough series, whoever they play.
Now, how about James Harden's defense at the end of the OKC series last week? I mean, he gets no credit at all for playing defense, and he basically made sure that game was over, Game 7. What you guys think of his performance? It's
a miracle he played defense because you know why he doesn't get credit for playing defense? Because usually he doesn't. We talked about what was it? It was last week. We were talking about it. He was walking on the court. Walking. I mean, come on, that's not defense. That's what a leader does. So, I mean, props to him for finally doing his job. I hate to say it like that, but That's what it boils down to. He finally did what he's supposed to be doing as a leader. You're really supposed to play both ends of the court. You really have to do it all. I mean, besides me making, take my jabs at him, poking a little fun, it was very impressive. Hat off to him because he really did everything at the end. It felt like it felt like a one-man show at the end with him. So good for Harden. I just hope he continues to do that. That's all I can say, because if he continues to be able to play both ends of the court like he was, and obviously his offense we know is there. If he continues that defense, he will be, for me, he'd be almost an MVP every year, because that would be the perfect combination of incredible offense already and very strong defense. But we just don't see it often enough, I hate to say.
Yeah, I thought it was just a totally different part of his game that we got to see. He doesn't get any credit for being a defensive player, and he stepped up when it counted. Maybe there's a method to his madness. He doesn't feel he needs to do it night in and night out, but when it matters, he does. But I don't think he has enough help to win a championship. And, they did win game 1 against the Lakers. The Lakers and Clippers scare me because both of those teams, they just take nights off and you don't know what to expect. I mean, can a team win a championship that way?
I don't know. And the other thing with the Rockets is Russ too. Like Westbrook, his health, like he was off for so long. I think he's still trying to find his game. So that's another tough thing for the Rockets. Like I don't know if he said the other day, he said he feels like he's just running around out there. So I don't know like how much longer it'll take him to kind of get back up to speed, or if they'll have time this series against the Lakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. You can see he looks off. He's just throwing the ball all over the place. He's dribbling, losing the ball, like things that are very un-Westbrook-like.
Yes. Yeah. I heard one of our analysts say, maybe it was Kendrick Perkins, he said Russ needs to the only thing Russ needs to do is be Russ, and not try to do too much stuff like what are not his strengths. So we'll see if that is something that he can do.
I just had to put this up because this made me laugh. But sadly, at least in terms of Harden's defense, I agree it is sparse. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's not why they pay him though, right?
You're definitely right about that.
Yeah. And the thing is, they, like JB said, they just don't have enough firepower to beat the Lakers. Now, it's great they beat them game 1. I mean, Portland beat the Lakers game 1, but great teams end up winning those series, and the Lakers are up 2-1, and they're going to win this series. They're the better team, and the Rockets just don't have the firepower that they had from a few years ago when they should have beaten the Golden State Warriors at least once a few years ago. They just don't have that kind of firepower anymore, and eventually Harden and Westbrook will wear out, and the Lakers will win that series.
Yeah, I mean, look, they won game 1, but JB, you just said teams take a night off, especially like the Lakers and the Clippers. Probably just a night off, so to speak. They win game 1, but I was talking about Harden's defensive non-existence. Really, I'm not just going to blame him, of course, because everybody I can tell is a little bit tired out there, especially Russ, like we just said. But I just think little things like that. Or for me at least, why I don't see the Rockets going ahead. I don't see it. I think they're outmatched. I think it was one game. They get it. That's just about all they're going to really get. Maybe they pull out another game if the Lakers try and say, okay, we're going to win the series and we know it. Let's take another night off to try and help us rest for the next series. Maybe they do that. I doubt it, but you never know. You never know what the coaches or the players are going to want to do. So maybe they pull out 2 games, but I don't see more than that. I think it's at best for the Rockets, at best a 4-2 series.
Do the Nuggets have a chance at beating the Clippers?
I don't think so. But the Clippers and Lakers scare me because again they both take nights off, and if the wrong thing happens, But
the Nuggets have played them really tough all 3 games. They've really went toe-to-toe with them this series.
The Clippers are too deep. The bench is just too deep. They're not going to have a shot. You know, I'm really curious for the next round to see the Lakers Clippers, to see how that shakes out. I don't see either one of these teams having any chance. You know, I mean, the Boston-Toronto series so far has been, I think, the best one. And Boston really blew a chance to take a stranglehold to game 3. You made a great point about that, John. When that game ended, I happened to miss it, you know, but they gave up a buzzer beater at the end, and they ended up losing that game. So, and it looks like Toronto's going to end up, they may pull out tonight's game to send it to a game 7. So that one's going to be interesting. What do you guys see happening with the rest of that series?
I guess I'll tackle this one. First of all, it took a miracle for the Raptors to win one game. Now, yes, they did end up winning another one, but it took a miracle to win the first game to salvage the series and give themselves any chance at surviving in this series. So ultimately, I think the Celtics end up winning the series. The Raptors just don't look like the same team from last year. Obviously, they don't have Kawhi anymore, but they just don't quite look like that same hungry team that we saw from last year.
Yeah, I think the Celtics probably too. Like, I think that it'll end up being the Heat and the Celtics in the conference finals.
I just think, honestly, the Celtics are too good, first of all, but it just looks like oh god, of course I'm drawing a blank now. Oh my god, who are the Celtics playing? Of course I'm drawing a blank. The worst. Raptors, thank you. I couldn't think of the name. Raptors look like they're slowing down. I think it just, we said they don't look as hungry as last year. I think they're also just being worn down by the way the Celtics are playing. You know, I think they kind of rode the momentum from that miracle win, as we would like to call it, to help themselves get a little momentum in this series. But I think ultimately the Celtics will be facing the Heat. And I actually, with the way the Heat are playing, I'm going to say it now, before that series even starts, I actually like the Heat in that series, just the way they're playing. Because I love to talk about just getting hot. That's what's really important to me, because you could have the best team in the world, like the Bucks. I mean, they were one of the best teams, right? Playing a hot Heat team, and the Heat win. Very well could happen again. But the way the Heat are playing, I'm saying it before next week, in case that's, you know, probably because that series will most likely start before next week. I like the Heat in that series. I'm saying it now. John, I know you like to hear that.
It's music to my ears. I appreciate it. Finally, you're on the SPO train. I appreciate
hold on.
jumping on the
I'm
SPO
on the
train.
Heat train, not the SPO train. Two different trains, my friend. Right now. Two different trains.
Wow.
I said last week he's the best coach in the Eastern Conference. And to me he is, and he's just proven this roster is really good, but I don't think it's a roster that necessarily should have beaten the best team in the league, the best offense, the best defense in the league, and they rolled them over. It was obviously 3-0, so it wasn't much of a series with Eric Spoelstra. Now, the bubble probably had something to do with that, yes, but you got to give Spo his credit for getting his team ready for this bubble and to beat the best team in the league. You got to give him credit for that. He's in the Eastern Conference Finals for the 5th time in his coaching career. Fifth time in 10 years.
To be underrated. You know what I mean? I think that people don't give him enough credit for being, you know, I'm not a huge basketball fan. I'm more of a hockey fan, but like he doesn't seem to get the credit that he really deserves. That just seems like, that just is my opinion, but
I think
he didn't get
about that.
He didn't get the credit when LeBron and them were there because obviously LeBron and Wade and Bosh, they would say that they coached the team. And then obviously Riley's there, so everybody's going to say, you know, it's all Riley, just kind of the puppet master. But, you know, Spo, he's a really good coach. He's one of those guys that's always overlooked whenever it comes to coach of the year and things like that.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with that. Part of the problem is when he had the big three for those few years, people didn't look at him. And again, I'm not saying that he's the greatest coach ever. I do think he's a very good coach, and I kind of have to agree that generally he is a little bit underrated. And I think that those big three being there kind of overshadows that. You could have any coach. You could have Phil Jackson in his prime with those big three, and people are not going to be talking necessarily all about Phil Jackson. It's going to be the big three. They're going to say, oh, well, Bosch did this night, or Wade made that play, or LeBron played this, made this great defensive stop, whatever it is. They're not going to be talking about the coaching. It doesn't – that kind of hurts. That hurts him. I don't want to say hurts his image necessarily, but it derails from his accolades and his accomplishments. It derails that. It takes it from, okay, here's what he did, to it's because of these guys, not because of him. It kind of changes the direction of what people look at.
Yeah, I definitely think that he has been overlooked a little bit. I don't think he's as great as you feel he is, John, but I don't think he's as bad as we may have looked at him before this year. So somewhere in the middle, I think, is where he is. But great year for him. Great talent in Miami. They have a nice team. They've had a nice team to watch all year, and Butler was a great pickup. You want to talk some baseball, John?
Yes, I do. With two Yankee fans, so I'm interested. I'm curious.
Make that three. What Christine is as well.
Three. What happened to these Yankees, and how are the Baltimore Orioles going into tonight, at least, half game out of the wild card? How is this possible? And then the Orioles come into town for 4 games starting tomorrow. So how is this possible? I know injuries and stuff, but what happened in New York?
The biggest issue right now seems to be the offense and the pitching are not in sync. You either get great pitching, garbage offense, great offense, terrible pitching. They just can't line up at the same time, and that seems to be the problem. It was, I want to say 2 nights ago maybe, when the Blue Jays had like a 10-run inning. Offense was up 6-2. The offense had done their part by a long shot. They'd done everything they needed to do. It was bad pitching and bad defense. There were, I think, 1 or 2 errors from, I believe it was Voit at first. And the pitching was terrible. And I was talking about that game, and just in that game alone, there was something that really bothered me. And John, I'd love to hear what you think about this, just because I know you're the baseball guy, so I want to get your thoughts on this. Ottavino, I think, shook off like 3 or 4 pitches just to get to his pitch, and I believe the next pitch was either the grand slam or a hit. I'm not sure which one it was, but it was definitely some sort of hit after that pitch. What do you think? What do you think in that situation? Do you think Ottavino should have just trusted his catcher and just said, "I'm pitching like garbage. Do I just go with what you give me?"
No, I think whenever a pitcher shakes off that many pitches, at least for me, I like to see the catcher come out and talk to him. If they can't get on the same page, especially if there's nobody on base, okay, it's not that big a deal if you give up a solo home run. But if the bases are loaded, you said he gave up a grand slam. If the bases are loaded and you're shaking off that many pitches, then the catcher's not giving you what you want. And to me, the catcher should come out and talk and make sure that you're both on the same page, because that's a big pitch. You don't want to give up a grand slam. You don't want to give up a base hit, give up 2 runs. So if I'm the catcher in that situation, I come out and I talk to him and I say, hey, look, you're shaking off everything. What do you want? Let's be on the same page. Let's make sure we don't give up anything big and blow this open, any more than it already is. So that's what I would have done if I'm the catcher in that situation. Because if your pitcher's not giving you what you want, then you got to talk to him. You got to come out and find out what he wants, because clearly whatever you're giving him, he's not having it.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, John. It's, it's simple. You're as the catcher, you're basically the on-field coach. If something's not right or something's not going the way it needs to be, you got to take responsibility, go out to the mound, settle the pitcher down, and get back on the same page so you get through that half inning.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's just pitching is killing me, and I think that's the Yankees' biggest problem right now is, at least from what I'm seeing for the most part, the relievers are just I don't know what's going on with them. Their stuff is just not there at all. I think, truthfully, Aaron Boone needs to sit down with these guys and have a serious conversation, try and talk to them, try to talk to the pitching coach, see if there's something mechanically off in their game maybe. But I'm not sure what's really going on with them right now.
And also all the injuries from the second straight year, right? Like all the injuries, like Judge and Stanton. And I was like, how is this happening again, right? Like all these guys like hurt. And I just like LeMahieu was hurt for a while, and then Canley's out for the year. It's amazing to me that all these guys are hurt. And I think that's a tough thing to deal with too. Like trying to I guess our guys caught lightning in a bottle last year, right? Boone pushed all the right buttons and got all the way to the league championship series. But I don't know, like with only a 60-game season, you can't afford to go 5-15 in a 20-game span, right? Like even I was trying to remember, might have been Buster only said like a 5-game losing streak in a 60-game season is like a 12-game losing streak or a 15-game losing streak. Like you can't. It's getting late early, to quote Yogi Berra, right? Like I can't understand what's happening, like how this lineup and everything that's invested in it, like they look so bad. And like you were saying the other night, like if you're up 6-2, 6 runs is enough to win a baseball game. It should be enough to win a baseball game, right? Because you certainly, like in the postseason, you're going to have to win games 2-1, 1-0, 3-2. It's because the pitching's that much better. So that's just it's frustrating to watch. I know the other night, like I asked my husband, I'm like, hey, can I turn on the Islanders game? Because I was like, I got to watch something else here.
I did the exact same thing. And then that game got out of hand too. So I was like, great. Who do I watch? One blowout of my team or the other team getting blown out? Which do I have to watch?
Yep.
Well, one thing that if you guys remember the very beginning of the season, Jake and JB, I said there's one weakness to this Yankees team. I said there's one weakness to it last year. Now last year it's 162 games, so it's easier to recover. But in a 60-game season, I said there's one weakness to the Yankees, and I said it's the injury bug. I said they always are injured. They're always hurt, and that's their one weakness is staying on the field. Aaron Judge is always hurt. Giancarlo Stanton's always hurt. And it's always something with the Yankees when it comes to injuries. It's always something. If this team can stay healthy, they probably beat anybody in any series. They probably just run away with the World Series. But because they're so talented, but they can't stay healthy. And in sports, as you all know, the best availability, you got to have that durability. So they haven't been durable. Aaron Judge is he's a glass door. Giancarlo Stanton, he obviously he's big and strong, but he can't stay healthy. And it's the Yankees' one weakness. And it's a shame for you guys, but as an Oriole fan, the team that's in, a big rebuilding mode, and we're a half game out, I don't think we make the playoffs. Even if we do, we don't make noise, but it's still fun to see, this Oriole team competing and right there in the thick of things. And what do you guys think about this 8-team? I guess it's 8 teams make the playoffs. What do you guys think about that? Do you want it to stay? Christine, what do you think?
I'd like it to stay. Why not? You keep more fans involved of certain teams. Like I like it. Like I know some people think there's too many NHL and NBA teams that make the playoffs. I like it. I mean, I don't know what you guys think about that, but I think you don't obviously want to have too many more, but why not? Right?
I have mixed feelings. So my thing is I don't like it because I hate to sound like such an old timer almost, but it's been a certain set of teams or number of teams, I should say, for however long. It's been so long. But with that said, I will say there is an advantage to it, and the big advantage from in my perspective is it helps create parity. It helps when you have, let's say the Yankees playing, I don't know, the Orioles, for example. Let's just say Yankees are number 1, Orioles are the last seed. And I'm just making this up, of course. And the Orioles play well, they knock the Yankees out. Well, and the Yankees are not going to be in it. Now there's a new team in the thick of things. So as much as I like the way it's always been, just because I think it's kind of what I'm used to, I like the concept of it's going to possibly create more parity. It allows room for the best teams to get knocked down. I mean, hockey's a good example. Last year, Lightning, Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets knock out the Lightning. That creates parity, things like that. Best team gets knocked out. As much as from a fan perspective, I don't always love it, but from someone that appreciates the game for what it is, I love it because it really allows anybody to have a chance, because the playoffs are always, I've always said the playoffs are a whole nother animal. They're so different from anything near the regular season. And you give a team a shot, it can be really fun to watch that one team if they catch lightning in a bottle.
But my whole thing is you can't be a one game like they were doing with 2 wild card teams. You got to have series, because baseball, one game, it's not fair. It really isn't. I don't mind if you play all 3 games at the better team site, at the better team stadium, but you can't do a one game thing, because if you have a pitcher that's lights out, that's it. You're done. A guy makes a bad play. Okay, you're out of the playoffs. I don't like that.
It takes a funny hop out of the playoffs. And I've always felt strongly about adding more teams, specifically in baseball, because you play 162 games and only 4 teams originally, before they added the play-in game, only 4 teams make the playoffs after a 162 game season. I just don't feel that's fair to the players. They put now these players put in a lot of work, but baseball, 162 games, that's a lot. It's a lot of showing up to the stadium. It's a lot of practice. It's a lot of batting practice. That's a lot that goes into a 162 game season plus spring training. For it to be 4 teams, that's why I like more teams for basketball, hockey, and baseball. All 3 of these sports that have long seasons, that's why I like it, because they play such a long season. Why should it be such a short amount of teams? Why not put 8 and give these teams more opportunities to make a run and give the fan bases more hope, more to look into. I've always liked, if you have a longer season, more teams. 8 is plenty, but any more than that is too much, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Christine, do you have anything for the NFL?
My Bills are going to go 10-6, and they're going to win 2 playoff games.
Well done. Bold prediction.
Christine, before we let you go here in a few minutes, I'm curious what your thoughts are on Josh Allen, because there's mixed reactions, mixed emotions, not only from Bills fans, but just people in general on Josh Allen. It goes a lot of different ways with him. I mean, there's a lot to love, but there's also a lot to dislike. So what are your thoughts on Josh Allen, and can he lead the Bills to the promised land?
I like him a lot. I think that we do have our quarterback that we've been looking for since Jim Kelly retired in 1997. I know he needs to work on his deep ball accuracy. I'm not thrilled with him running so much. I know he can make stuff happen, and he's young and he's fast, but I worry about injuries that way. I would like to see him, and I feel this way with even in hockey and other sports too. I like it when old players that were great players get involved with the young guys. Like I know that Josh has a good relationship with Jim Kelly, and I would like to see that develop more, because I think that's a wealth of knowledge that could help Josh with his game. I'm hoping that he can take another step forward this year. I don't know. I'm excited about him, and I'm excited about the season. I can't wait for football, and I'm excited for tomorrow night. I'm excited for Texans and Chiefs.
Texans, got it on. Ready. I'm right there with you. What's that?
I said, what a game that should be, right?
Oh, I'm ready.
Oh my God.
New deal for Deshaun Watson. I think it's just time to show up and say, here's why they gave me that extension. I mean, Obviously everybody knows why he got the money. Don't get me wrong, but it's the perfect opportunity to come out and say, hey, here's why they gave me all the money.
Right.
Yeah. No,
so I have one bold prediction for the game. I say J.J. Watt gets at a minimum 2 sacks.
Whoa.
I think Just my thoughts. I think he's going to come out. He knows how good the Chiefs were last season, Super Bowl champs. I'm saying minimum 2 sacks on the game. Try to get to Patrick Mahomes, disrupt his rhythm, try and take over that game if he can.
You think he's going to catch Pat?
He very well could. Look, if I've always said, if a man's on a mission, a man's on a mission. You never know. I just think he's going to have himself a good game. Sometimes you just get a feeling. I just got one of those feelings.
We'll see tomorrow. I don't know about that. I think the Chiefs are going to walk all over them. You know, I don't see it being much of a game. Bill O'Brien just doesn't impress me. I feel bad. Deshaun may be getting paid, but he would have been better off leaving Houston.
Well, that's true. I'd still agree with that. I think Bill O'Brien's, to put it politely, I think he's a clown. I think to give him as much power as he has, after, especially, you know what, to me, what was too far, you know, what I felt like was, all right, he needs to go now, was after that DeAndre Hopkins trade. That was
insane.
Stupid.
That was
the fact
insane.
that someone let him go through with that upsets me.
Yeah, that was there's not even anything to say about that.
I do feel bad for Deshaun Watson because that team is – I don't want to say it's dysfunctional because it's not. I think Bill O'Brien is dysfunctional, though. Him himself. Not the team or the organization, just O'Brien. And he's
they've
stuck
kept
with
him there. But they've kept him there for how long?
I know.
They could get rid of him tomorrow if they chose to. So
I
that
wish
means
they would.
whoever's above him is dysfunctional.
I wish they would get rid of him.
Any other football stories?
No, we have Fago coming on, our other guest. So we'll have him join us here in a moment. Christine, we thank you for joining us. We really, really enjoyed having you.
Thank you.
Yes, Christine, thank you.
Yes, it was great having you on. Really appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thank you so much.
Go Bills.
All right.
Have
bye.
a great night.
Bye, guys.
Hey.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Fago, how's it going?
I'm blessed. How about yourself, man?
We're pretty good. We just got done talking about the 3 basketball, MLB and NHL. So we were on the NFL. We were talking a little bit of Chiefs Texans.
Mm-hmm. As JB said, hey, how you doing first and foremost?
Doing well. How's it going, Fago?
Man, you know, just been working hard. You know me by now.
Oh, believe me, I know. One of the hardest working men out there, man.
How you doing?
Well, thank you, man.
Yo.
Hey, how you doing, Jake?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm hanging in there. But to go back to what JB was saying, I think honestly it's going to be a blowout. I would love to see, you know, Patrick Mahomes come out there, you know, throw for at least 350 yards. You know, I have a couple of touchdowns, but I think it's going to be like a 27, maybe 14 type of game. So, you know, it's going to be pretty interesting. But it's football. Football is back, so we're pretty excited about that.
That is an understatement. I cannot wait for football to be back. To say I'm excited would be a disservice.
It's going to be weird. We're going to have 4 sports for a few weeks here. I mean, we got all 4 going strong. My
favorite time of the year, almost every year, we get 4 sports at once. It's the perfect time of the year. It's when we get all 4. I love it. I can go on any time of the day, it feels like, and there's a game on somewhere.
And I agree. You know, you got the WNBA playoffs, you got the NBA playoffs going on, you got the U.S. Open going on, you got the NASCAR players playoffs going on. You still got PGA out there. It's just so much, and it's crazy. You know, with me covering all these different things, I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is going on here? So like tomorrow, you know, of course we got, you know, NFL, but you also still got the Lakers and the Rockets game. which is pretty exciting to watch. Then, of course, you got Serena Williams. She just made it to the semifinals. So that's going to be pretty interesting. And I'm not sure. Don't quote me verbatim, but I don't know if there's going to be a college football game on Thursday. But I definitely know that, you still got the WNBA playoffs going on. So that's going to be pretty interesting to watch, to see if the Storm, the Aces, or the Sparks can get into that final position. We're making it into a deep playoff chase.
Yeah, it's just like an overload. It's like an overload. It's we went for months without having anything, and it's like a typhoon all of a sudden. I love it.
Cannot complain. No, I was just saying I can't complain. You know what?
No.
We went so long without sports. I will take anything. I mean, I remember during the quarantine, I watched anything related to sports. There was a day I'll never forget. I don't know when it was, but I'll never forget what it was. It was ESPN 8, the Ocho. They had like a special for the day. Mm-hmm. And they had like the most random sports. I was so thrilled to have anything. And now that I have all these sports at once, I couldn't be happier. It's like I feel like a little kid in a candy shop right now. It's like, ooh, which one do I want to watch right now?
So what teams are y'all looking forward to watching this season as far as NFL is concerned?
I want to see the Dolphins with Tua, to be honest with you. I'm kind of excited about him. If he's healthy, he was great in college. I like what he does, to the game. I thought the Dolphins finished the year strong. I hate having to give John props on this, being that he's a Dolphin fan. But I'm interested to see how he fits in the pros. What about you guys?
I'm excited to.
I'm interested in seeing. Go ahead, Jake.
I was just gonna say I'm excited to first of all see how the Bucs do with Tom Brady. That is going to be really. First of all, it's going to be weird to see Tom Brady in a different jersey after so long. That's going to feel weird in and of itself. I'm excited to see because that team we've talked about. They have a lot of weapons, and that's going to be really interesting. But I would also just say that division as a whole, the NFC South looks going to be a really fun division this year. For me, that's probably my division to watch. You have two future possibly three future Hall of Famers, if you ask me. Because I think Matt Ryan will be a Hall of Famer one day, most likely. I know for a fact Tom Brady and Drew Brees will be. That's at least two Hall of Famers for sure, and possibly a third. That's going to be a very fun division. And I'm not taking anything from Carolina because they still are exciting to watch, especially with Christian McCaffrey. I love watching him. I think he's one of the most electrifying players, not only now, but probably ever. He's something special. I'm really excited about that division. I'm honestly curious to see how the Bucs will play with Tom Brady, because I feel like all the time we always hear guys at the end of their career almost create a super team, and then they suck. They fall on their face. They fall flat on their face and do nothing. So I'm really curious to see if it's going to be that, or if it's going to be, are they going to live up to their expectation? And I'm curious to see if who's going to win that division. Is it going to be the Bucs, or is it going to be the Saints? Or is somehow Atlanta going to revive themselves and surprise everybody? That I doubt. But really, I'm curious to see between the Saints and Tampa, who's going to win that division. That's, for me, I can't wait to see that. That's going to be – I get the feeling that's going to come down to the last 2-3 weeks, maybe even the last week itself.
And a lot of people are talking about, of course, Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay is starting to look like the Browns, what we saw last year. The Browns brought in a lot of different individuals, but Baker Mayfield did not get it done, and they were kind of flying under the radar this year. I want to see if they can actually make it to the playoffs, because on paper, that team is very talented. And then another team that I'm looking, forward to watching, of course, is the Arizona Cardinals. They got D-Hop. They have a nice offensive line. They got a great running back. And I love that young quarterback that they have in Murray. I think that they can do something special this year, and I think they can actually, go this year into the postseason. So that's going to be pretty interesting. And nobody is talking about Phillip Rivers in that Indianapolis Colts. Nobody's talking about the Colts.
Not at all, no. Very under the radar in Indianapolis. It's going to be interesting to see what he does there.
I like it. They have a good defense already, as we know, especially with Darius Leonard. I love him. I think he's one of the better young defensive players just in general. I love watching him. They have a very good offensive line now. Of course, now that Andrew Luck is gone, their offensive line is improving. I'm sure Andrew Luck is sitting at home thinking, where the heck was this, the past few years when I was playing, where was this? Phillip Rivers has always been a good quarterback, if you ask me. I thought that draft class as a whole was really good, actually. I think arguably Eli just statistically may have been the weakest. But again, the draft class as a whole I think was really great. And Phillip Rivers has always kind of gone under the radar only because not a lot of playoff experience or no championships, none of that. I think this very well could be a year where you see A, the playoffs for Phillip Rivers, and he B, wins a playoff series, and C, maybe wins a Super Bowl. Who knows?
Not in that division. Nah.
You never know. My thing is, it's been such a crazy year. I wouldn't even be surprised anymore. I wouldn't even be surprised just because it's been that wild of a year.
Look, if Phillip Rivers was Phillip Rivers in his prime, then maybe I'd give you that. But in that division, the Titans, I think, are the class of that division. So the Titans are going to be hard to beat. They just added Jadeveon Clowney, so that defense gets better. The Texans aren't going to quite be as good, but they'll be better, I think, than the Colts. I don't think the Colts quite have the firepower that those two teams have. And plus, there's a lot of good teams in the AFC especially the Chiefs, Ravens, Steelers. Steelers are going to be back. There's just too many teams, and Phillip Rivers is way past his prime. He might have a decent season. We just lost Jake, I guess. But there's no way. There's no way I see Phillip Rivers, who is let me add Jake back in. If I added him in.
I'm back.
There we go. But there's no way that Phillip Rivers, who's way past his prime, is going to lead that team to the playoffs, let alone the Super Bowl, past Patrick Mahomes, past Lamar Jackson, past the Steelers and Big Ben. I just can't see it. Past the Titans,
you
no
don't
way.
see playoffs at all, not even in a wild card?
No, nope. The Texans and Titans, I think the Texans end up getting the first wild card, and then you'll probably get either a team like Miami or a team like or Baltimore. One of those teams getting the other wild card. Whoever wins the division out of the Steelers, Ravens, the other one gets that.
I'm pretending you didn't just say
Miami has a shot, depending.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing.
Plays.
Hold on, John. Time out. You really think to tell me that you think Miami's going to play better than Indianapolis and going to get the wild card spot?
It depends.
Forget anything I've said up to this point. You really believe that?
Depends on if Tua plays or not. If Tua's there, then I think yes. But if not, then no.
John,
they got win in that division.
But none of us know. But none of us know if Tua's going to play. They keep saying different things. We don't know. Fitzpatrick could end up unfortunately hurt. Tua comes in, and I think as soon as Tua comes in, it's dynamic in the AFC East and in the AFC.
Wow,
that's John. That's a bold take.
Just my
yeah.
You're all.
What was that?
And I'm also looking forward to looking at the NFC East as well too.
What do you see in the NFC East? A couple of Giant fans here not looking too hopeful.
Nope.
Well, I got Carson Wentz over here, so he's like Sam Bradford now these days.
Yeah, he can't stay healthy for anything. It's a shame.
I mean, we got Jalen Hurts, so it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to actually take the starting position and probably the second half of the season if Wentz can't get it going.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they say they drafted him to have him kind of in a Taysom Hill sort of role, how the Saints have with Drew Brees, kind of have him as almost as an extra wide receiver at times, or just almost as a special teams player to kind of be wherever. I wouldn't be surprised. And I honestly forget that Wentz might not be able to get it going. I wouldn't be surprised if Wentz gets hurt and we see him play, because Wentz's track record is hurt constantly, like we just said. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, I hate to say it. I don't like the Eagles. I enjoy watching them struggle, but I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't come as a shock to me to hear, Carson Wentz gets hurt and breaks another whatever. It would not come as any surprise whatsoever. He could be one of the best quarterbacks in the game, probably. He could be in my opinion, he could probably be on the level with a guy like maybe Deshaun Watson. He could kind of be in that tier of like maybe not quite at the elite level, because I would say elite is probably, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. I put the Deshaun Watsons just below the elite, just on the cusp, maybe just a little bit below it. If Carson Wentz could stay healthy, he would be up there with them, if you ask me.
But Deshaun Watson had D-Hop, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see if he can do it without D-Hop.
Make the elite jump, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's definitely going to be something to look forward to seeing.
And the Cowboys,
maybe he goes out there and tries to prove himself. Who knows? Maybe he says, "I lost my best guy. I want to go out there and prove that I was good, and it wasn't because of him." Who knows?
Well, they got Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is a definitely fiery wide receiver out there if he can stay healthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's going to be the Cowboys out of the NFC. I think they're stacked.
Yeah.
I agree, and I'm a diehard Eagles fan. Like, they got CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper out there. Dak Prescott has definitely improved since last year. They have a great offensive line. It's just their defense always struggles, especially defensive end type of aspect. And their safeties, their safeties have been getting burnt. The last three games that they had before. They didn't get the postseason spot. But nevertheless, they need to strengthen their wide receiving core, of course, their safeties, and as well as defensive linemen, because they was getting torched last year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Cowboys are the easy pick just because Washington's not going anywhere. They suck. Giants are almost just as bad. They suck too. The Eagles, if Carson Wentz stays healthy, maybe they'll be better. Mm-hmm. But only time will tell. I never know with that team, to tell you the truth, only because of Carson Wentz's injuries. And then if Jalen Hurts comes in, only time would tell what would happen with him. No idea. Cowboys offensively, I would say arguably the scariest on paper looking offense, maybe next to the Chiefs. They may be on paper even scarier now because the Chiefs have had opt-outs. I could argue that just on paper, they are the scariest team, especially if CeeDee Lamb plays up to the expectation. Then you got Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and that's not mentioning their number one receiver, Amari Cooper, who is already a proven star. That's a scary team. And that's not also mentioning star running back Ezekiel Elliott. You got Dak, who is a multiple-time Pro Bowler. He looks great. But, Fago, I agree with what you said. My biggest concern is their defense. It was funny. I was doing a fantasy draft, I don't know, it was earlier this week, and I was talking to somebody about it, and I said, do not take the Cowboys defense. They on paper look fantastic. They, rank-wise, they look great, but they're just not a defense to have, if you ask me. I don't trust them. And yet again, for the millionth time, it feels like, I think it was earlier this week or maybe late last week, Sean Lee out again.
He is?
Healthy. Out again. I mean, this has got to be the fifth time he's been out for I'm not sure if it was the full season, but he's out again for sure for an extended period of time. Kills the Cowboys because he's a great linebacker. He really is. When he plays, he's one of the scariest out there, but he never plays. So again, just Cowboys defense, just another big blow.
And then another storyline that a lot of people are talking about is the Cam Newton, and then is he's going to have a better season than Tom Brady. And that's going to be pretty like an intriguing story in itself, because I want to see if he can revive his career. If he could go back to that 2015 Cam Newton. And then it's going to be pretty interesting to see how the Patriots would implicate him in the system now, because they always had the traditional quarterback. Now we're talking about a running quarterback now. So that is definitely exciting to watch as well, too.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And then you got the Belichick-Brady conversation that, depending on who's doing well, who was the key to that team.
And Bill Belichick is saying more praises to Cam Newton in the past 3 weeks, they said, than Bill Belichick is saying praises to Tom Brady in the last 20 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I think it's knowing what your team, what your guy needs. Cam may need the praise. That may be how to get the best out of him, and maybe Tom liked people that were hard on him. When you coach a team, you got to know how to get your A game out of your guys and know, this guy needs me to get down on him, or he needs me to do this. Maybe Cam needs praise, or maybe because Cam's new, he wants to build him up and get that confidence.
I think it was more of a passive-aggressive thing by Bill Belichick. Kind of take digs at Brady. He's like, hey, I never gave you praise. Look at my new son. I'm giving him praise. So it's kind of like a dig at Brady. It's kind of like using Cam Newton to take shots at Brady because they obviously don't have a great relationship, Belichick and Brady. It did not end well. So I think it's more Belichick taking shots at Brady indirectly because he knows that would eat Brady up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, if I had to choose who's going to have the better season, yes, Cam Newton is younger. Yes, Cam Newton has the aspect that, that third dimension of being able to run really well. And obviously he's got a great coach in Bill Belichick, but Tom Brady, granted, does have Bruce Arians, which is another fantastic coach. I take Tom Brady not because he's the GOAT or any of that nonsense. Forget all of that. Tom Brady is not what he used to be, and that's a fact. I just feel like with all the weapons Tom Brady has, that's going to be his biggest ally. Is he's got Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard. Even if Gronk is half of what he used to be, he's still not going to be terrible. He's still going to be a viable player nonetheless.
He's got
Sean McCoy. It just the list goes on and on and on, and it feels like it just continues to go forever. The point is, that's what he has, but what does Cam Newton really have? Julian Edelman, N'Keal Harry, who I have no idea what to expect from him because when he played one game, he played a handful of games maybe last. I don't know how many games he played last season. He was hurt a lot of the season, so I don't know how that's going to be. Patriots just don't have a lot offensively in terms of players that are going to support Cam Newton, and I think that's going to be his biggest reason that he's not going to beat Tom Brady this season is just based on weapons. Tom Brady could play half as well as Cam Newton, but if he plays half as well with all those weapons, it doesn't matter because Cam Newton could be on an MVP-like level again, but if he has nobody to help him out around him, it's not going to matter in the end. It's not going to do anything because Lamar Jackson was great last season, and he was on an MVP level, but it still wasn't all him. He had guys to help him around him that helped him to at least reach the numbers he did. Obviously, the rushing was mainly him, but still, his all-around game was there. Patrick Mahomes 2 seasons ago, same thing. Guys around him. You got to have guys around you to have, a really great season. I think that's going to be Cam Newton's biggest issue. Because they didn't really improve that offense otherwise. They don't really have much that's new.
And I agree. Go ahead.
Real quick, the Celtics or Raptors were double over.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
2 overtimes, man.
Wow. Great game.
Hey, the Raptors are playing for their life, man.
Yeah.
So who you got going to the finals?
I like the Clippers, and out of the East right now, probably the Celtics.
I said it before earlier in the show. It almost pains me to say it with John just next to me on screen, but I like the Heat just with the way they're playing. I love the Heat right now. And I'm with JB. I like the Clippers a little bit. I think the Clippers will have a slight edge. I think that's going to be a close series, but I still would choose the Clippers in the end.
And I got the Clippers and Boston going together. Like I'm a diehard Lakers fan, but I personally don't see the Lakers going to the finals because their bench is horrific, man. They can't get no bench production out of Kyle Kuzma like that on a consistent basis. Rondo actually did pretty well. I think he had like 19 yesterday, which was crazy. But small ball for Houston is definitely their Achilles heel. But it would be crazy. Like I had put this on my Facebook yesterday. It'd be crazy if the 2 small ball teams actually make the finals, Boston and the Rockets. Anything can happen. It's 2020.
Yeah.
That would definitely be strange.
And
that would be interesting turn of events.
we've seen these bubbles where the Islanders are in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Heat are in the Eastern Conference Finals in their sport. Not that these teams can't make it, but you see these top seeds getting knocked off, and like you said, it's a crazy year. And in base, the Yankees are at least going into today 500. Who would have expected that? Astros were a game above 500 going into today. So in this weird season for all these sports, you're just seeing wacky things happen. So you're right. I mean, anything can happen.
And it's probably you're just seeing a little bit of rush because a lot of people didn't really have that time and that chemistry together. So you're seeing a lot of rush right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Getting back to football, what happened with Von Miller? Did they announce he's out for a while now? Did they figure out what the injury was today?
Yes. Go ahead, John. You got it.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say yes, and I think
essentially. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You got it. I'm sorry.
All right. I got it. Essentially, his tendon. I guess it got flipped over the bone. I guess so, I don't know exactly how that works, but his tendon got flipped over the bone. It's 5 to 6 months, but they're optimistic that there's a chance that it could be 3 months. I think that's going to be dependent on how that season goes for the Broncos. If they're not in it, then they're not going to rush him back, and he'll be back next year. If they're in it and they're having a good season, then I think that they go to the doctor, they go to him, and they see where he's at. And if he has a chance, then I think that they go from there.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to totally depend on how they're playing. If they have even a remote chance at the playoffs, maybe they try and bring him back in. I don't see that happening this season. I think what they really need to do is just give him the time off, especially because if this team has aspirations in the future, they want him around for the next few seasons. Don't risk making it worse because you never know what could happen. And if you make it worse unintentionally, obviously, you make it worse, it could be career-ending for all you know. You never know with these injuries. Anything can always happen. You got to be really, really careful with that. So I'm sure realistically they'll just play it safe and give him all the time he needs, even if it is the full 6 months. And even if the team needs him, they'll probably just play it safe to not risk, especially with a talent like him. I don't think you can take that risk.
Not at all, no.
I definitely agree.
So who do you guys see coming out of what do you see for the Super Bowl right now? Night before.
I was just about to ask. It's hard to tell because, on paper, some of these teams are looking extraordinary. They're looking like the team to beat. Of course, you got the Chiefs, being the Super Bowl champs this year. Of course, you can't count out the Ravens, but you just never know. They just lost Earl Thomas, and he was a big part of how successful they were last year. So that's going to be definitely interesting to see. In the AFC, I think it's just the Baltimore Ravens and, and of course the Chiefs. The other guys, it just you never know what you're going to expect with the Steelers. They just getting Big Ben back, but you just never know because they blew off a playoff spot last season too. It seems like 4 games to get to the postseason, they blow those 4 games, and those are the 4 games that they need. And that's what had happened. That's how the Titans snuck up into the playoffs and did some damage within, the Patriots and, of course, the Ravens and stuff. So it's hard to tell right now. I'm a diehard Eagles fan, but, I got it. I feel like we're just going to make it to the postseason and struggle to get there. But the team to look out for, just on paper alone is, the Saints. You can't never count out the Saints. I like Michael Thompson out there. They got a great offensive line. They got a great running back, and Alvin Kamara. If they don't trade him, so they're the team to be in that division, and I see them going deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was going to say Saints for the NFC. I know a lot of people are like, oh, the Bucks because Tom Brady and yada, yada, yada. I don't want to hear it. I think the Saints are better. End of discussion. I don't care how great Tom Brady is. He's getting older. Drew Brees, I swear on my life, he seems to get better every season. He like ages like fine wine. He just every season it's better. It's when is he going to slow down? I'm waiting for it. He still seems to be playing at an unbelievable level. I got a lot of talent around him. Saints for sure. I hate to say it, but AFC again, like you just said, Fago. Again, just Chiefs, Ravens. I wish I would say, oh, there's more parity. There's a team I see. I don't see anybody right now. I mean, the season hasn't started, but those teams are so dominant. I'd be surprised to see anybody else, at least on the AFC side.
And then a lot of people are always talking about the Bucks, but the Bucks, their star wide receiver Mike Evans just got injured today, so that's a huge loss. And then you never know what you're going to expect with Gronkowski. He just took a year off. Yeah. He looks great. He's in fit shape. But it's a difference when you're playing on the field and you're getting tackled. And you've been going from the game from a year. So that's going to be pretty interesting to watch. And then they put in so much trust in a 40-year-old man that hasn't been in the offense that long. I don't understand why people jumping on his bandwagon.
Because he's Tom Brady and everybody sees the name and they think, all those Super Bowls, that's what they see. They don't really put the thought towards it. They just hear, oh, Tom Brady, so he's one of the best ever, end of discussion. That's what people see, sadly.
Well,
you said that about Brett Favre too, and you saw what happened with Brett Favre.
Yeah, but he actually has a ton of offensive weapons now around him, which does scare me, but I don't see them going as far as everyone thinks. My honest opinion, Dallas against the Saints in the NFC Championship game. The AFC, you're going to see the Ravens and Kansas City. It's going to be Dallas against Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl.
And who's your sleeper team?
Oh,
that's a great question. I don't know.
As if 2020 can't get worse. You're giving us that Super Bowl? Oh man, come on.
Watch Lamar. I have no problem. I'll watch Lamar all day.
None of us want to see Dallas in the Super Bowl. Come on, don't make 2020 worse.
Listen, as a Giant fan, as much as I dislike Dallas, their offense is fun to watch. They have a good offensive team. I like watching Zeke.
I agree, but then also at the same time, it lands on the shoulders of Dak Prescott. Last year he was phenomenal. However, you never know what to expect. Because last year I think he was, fighting for that contract. This year now is fighting for that contract and pride. But again, it's that offensive line, and they haven't really had chemistry within each other, in some months. So that's going to be telling a story to tell as well too.
I personally,
John, you're breaking up.
You're breaking up, buddy.
This is the thought of the century, though, because I know what he's going to say.
Seahawks are the team to beat in the NFC. That team with Russell Wilson, they've got much talent, and he does so much on that team. And they should have been there last year. They were inches away from winning that game against San Francisco, 1 seed. They would have ended up where San Francisco was. They would have ended up in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, in my opinion. So I think Seattle ends up getting to the Super Bowl this year. Seattle and Tennessee.
I can't say
Tennessee.
That's a bad pick. I don't like the Tennessee part, but Seattle.
You said Tennessee? That's the one.
Yeah.
Tennessee they just got the AFC. They just got the championship game. AJ Brown getting better. Ryan Tannehill another year in the offense, and they just added James Clowney. So that team is only going to get better. And they lost 10-0 on Kansas City Chiefs, if you remember. Kansas City. So they could go on the road, play Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, and there could be no fans or a little bit of fans, and fans won't make as much of a difference as they made last season in the AFC Championship. So, Mike Vrabel's got that team, in the right direction. He's a fantastic coach. Adding Jadeveon Clowney just makes them that much better. AJ Brown now in his second season is going to get a lot better. So that team is just as dangerous as anybody that you'll find right now.
Who's their wide receiver? Because if I remember, it was just a Derrick Henry type of show.
A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is fantastic. He broke out in his rookie year last year. He was great, and he's only going to get better. And Jonnu Smith, a young tight end that they have, he's a big guy that's tough to defend. If he comes around, they got a lot of weapons. And like I said, Mike Vrabel's a fantastic coach who came from New England. A lot of success in New England. Obviously, as a linebacker, winning Super Bowls there. So he's got the Belichick, type of build for his team. They play defense, they run the ball, that old school football mentality. So they're going to be tough to beat, and they'll be right there in the thick of things. So if I had to choose a team from the AFC, I'm going to go against the grain and not pick the Ravens or Chiefs. I'll go with the Titans.
Man, you're on your own with that one, man. Ryan Tannehill, Ryan Tannehill, he did all right, but it was just on the aspect of Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry ran the show without him producing 200 plus yards games. They went and got to the playoffs. And then also on top of that, you have to remember the Steelers dropped a couple of games. That's why they snuck in the playoffs.
Exactly. Seattle wasn't a bad choice, though.
Yeah, Seattle's a good choice. Still, Tennessee, you got to remember, they were up 10-0 on the Chiefs on the road in the AFC Championship game. So they had them, they had them on the ropes. So it's not like they can't do it.
I don't know. I'm not buying.
You heard the silence. Everybody was like, yeah.
Hey, I always get this. It's all right. I get this with my takes. I always get this with my Skip Bayless takes.
Yeah. And the Seahawks, I definitely agree with you on the Seahawks aspect. It's just, DK Metcalf definitely have to have a productive year. Carson's have to stay, healthy. The last few years he's been injury prone. If he's healthy, that team is a threat in the playoffs. But I feel like they just need one more piece, and they need to get some offensive linemen because their offensive line is shaky as mess.
Yeah.
All right, JB. Well, do you want to wrap it up? Give thanks to all the people we need to give thanks to.
So, Fago, thanks for coming on tonight, man. We definitely appreciate it. Christy, Lisi, thanks for taking the time with us. Mark at AMG Records, thanks for the music. We appreciate it. Thanks for everybody out there listening to Journey with the Jays and watching on YouTube. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with the fantasy draft. Hopefully, you guys stick around. Fago, definitely keep doing what you're doing, man. I see you everywhere. I love it. You inspire me. I know that. We've spoken many times, and I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on the show, and let's do it again. Maybe I'll come back next week with some takes.
Yeah.
Anytime you want, you let us know.
Guys, make sure you check out Fago and all his work. He's a fantastic journalist. He is everywhere. He works his butt off in journalism, and he's just fantastic. So he's up and coming. If you don't know about him, you need to know. Now you know. If you listen to this, now you know. Check out his work because he's on it everywhere. He is just fantastic, and we are so grateful
he literally
to have him.
Goes everywhere. He posts pictures at every event.
The Super Bowl, every Super Bowl it seems like.
Man. If y'all want to check me out for the viewers, you can check my Instagram at superjournalist87. My Facebook is Fago Franklin III. My LinkedIn is Fago Franklin III. You can find me on, if you want, you can just Google me, Fago Franklin III, and all my interviews will pop up as well as the places I have been. Of course, I've been covering Super Bowl. So if any fans out there, want to cover or do some things with Super Bowl events, definitely let me know. I am the plug. So I could definitely get you into some of the events and, get your brand out there as well. So definitely let me know.
Thanks again, Fago. It was a pleasure, man. You're always welcome. Right?
Yes, I am a publicist as well, too.
You're also a publicist,
you just heard that marketing skill right there as well, too. So, yes. But, yeah, y'all can just check me out. But, yeah, thank you for having me on the show because I know y'all trying to wrap this up and get to the next segment. So, thank y'all again, and we'll talk soon, buddies.